Hari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Gopi Janna Vallabha Jayo Giri Varadhari Jayo Giri Varadhari Shodanandana Braja Jana Ranjanam Shodanandana Braja Jana Ranjanam Munatira Vanacharim Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Gopi Janna Vallabha Jayo Giri Varadhari Jayo Giri Varadhari Shodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Shodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Munatira Vanacharim Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Shri Radha Madhava Astasaki Srimad Mahaprabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, this morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 16th chapter, entitled The Two Doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, Jaya and Vijay, Cursed by the Sages. Shloka 7. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yatsevaya Charana Padma Pavitra Renum. Sadhyakshata Kila Malam Pratilabda Shilam. Nashrir Viraktam Abhimam Vijahati Yasya. Preksha Lavarta Itare Nyamam Vahanti. Yatseva Charana Padma Pavitra Renum. Sadhyakshata Kilamalam Pratilabda Shilam. Nashrir Viraktam Abhimam Vijahati Asya. Preksha Itare Nyamam Vahanti. Please chant. Vaishnavis? Yat, of whom, sevaya, by the service, charana, feet, padma, lotus, pavitra, sacred, renum, the dust, sadhya, immediately, kshata, wiped out, akila, all, malam, since, pratilabdha, acquired, shilam, disposition, na, not, shri, the goddess of fortune, viraktam, have no attachment, api, even though, mam, me, Vijahati, live, Yasya, of the goddess of fortune, Prekshalava Artha, for obtaining a slight favor, Ittare, others, like Lord Brahma, Niyaman, sacred vows, Vahanti, observe. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Lord continued, because I am the servitor of my devotees, my lotus feet have become so sacred that they immediately wipe out all sin, and I have acquired such a disposition that the goddess of fortune does not leave me, even though I have no attachment for her, and others praise her beauty and observe sacred vows to secure from her even a slight favor. Purport. The relationship between the Lord and His devotee is transcendently beautiful. As the devotee thinks that it is due to being a devotee of the Lord that he is elevated in all good qualities, so the Lord also thinks that it is because of his devotion to the servitor that all his transcendental glories have increased. In other words, as the devotee is always anxious to render service to the Lord, so the Lord is ever anxious to render service to the devotee. The Lord admits herein that although He certainly has the quality that anyone who receives a slight particle of the dust of His lotus feet becomes at once a great personality, this greatness is due to His affection for His devotee. It is because of this affection that the goddess of fortune does not leave him, and that not only one but many thousands of goddesses of fortune engage in his service. In the material world, simply to get a little favor from the goddess of fortune, people observe many rigid regulations of austerity and penance. The Lord cannot tolerate any inconvenience on the part of the devotee. He is therefore known as Bhakta Vatsala. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vandeham Shri Guru Shyuta Pada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamshcham He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantha Radha Kantha Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangir Hade Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gorat Vishre Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Ghora Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you all for coming. It's not easy to sit on a hot summer day and listen to Bhagavatam. So here we at the point at the point of gates of Vaikuntha. We just had unpleasant situation that happened there, incident of four Kumaras being stopped, and then Jaya and Vijay being cursed, and now the Lord personally came there and He's rectifying the situation. He's begging the pardon from the sages, from the four Kumaras. And this is not just some official cold apology letter, but it's a genuine, heartfelt expression. So this reveals how the Lord and devotees of Vaikuntha Vaikuntavasis think. So this is a very valuable insight for us, the residents of this material world. Because here in the material world, thinking, feeling, and willing is quite different from thinking, feeling, and willing in Vaikuntha. So what does Vaikuntha thinking look like? So here in this verse we have example how the Lord thinks. He thinks that His greatness is only because of His dedication to His devotees, only because of His bhakti or His bhaktas. The Supreme Lord, the Ishwar, the controller of all the worlds, He thinks, oh, I'm here in this position only because my devotees gave me mercy. And similarly, devotees, they think and they know that whatever they have achieved is only through the mercy of the Lord and mercy of His other devotees. So this is the thinking of the spiritual world, thinking of Vaikuntha. Whatever good and worthy I have is not due to my own qualities or my actions. It's only due to kindness of the Lord and His devotees. And whatever bad happens to me, this is my fault. It is due to my bad qualities and my wrong actions in the past. So everybody there in the Vaikuntha, including the Lord, think in this way. So that's why it's called the place of no anxieties, Vaikuntha. And what is Kunta? Kunta is this world full of anxieties. And what is Kunta thinking? The thinking that is diametrically opposite to Vaikuntha thinking. So what is that attitude of the people in this world? And generally, people here, they enjoy praising themselves, boasting, or they enjoy being praised by others who see or pretend to see their great qualities. So I did it. It's all due to my hard work, due to my intelligence, due to my strength, due to my good qualities. It's my success and my achievement. I work very hard to build this, and now I totally deserve this, what I have. And then how people in this world think when the bad things happen, it's not my fault, not my mistake. Usually, it's somebody else's mistake. They are responsible. Ultimately, God is responsible. So why is He sending me this? It's not fair. It's not right. So they're always protesting. Conditioned souls, they're always protesting. It's not right that this is happening to me. So what are some of the examples of this Kunta thinking, the thinking of this world? In the Shastra we have many examples of demons like Vanasura. He had thousands of arms, and then he satisfied Lord Shiva, and then boasted in front of Lord Shiva that there is nobody else who can actually fight with him except of Lord Shiva, that he is so strong. And Lord Shiva became very angry and said, don't worry, very soon somebody will come who will put you in place. Then we have other demons, Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, Duryodhana, Karna. They all boasted about their greatness. And of course, in modern day world, we have modern day heroes boasting at their greatness. Recently, I heard about one celebrity, American rapper and singer. I won't mention his name because his wife with her sister, they came to ISKCON temple and did puja, so I won't mention who he is. But he was in a church, and he said that I'm the greatest artist that God have ever created. Just imagine, I'm the greatest artist that God had ever created. And then he said also, no weapon formed against me shall prosper, because God is always protecting me, which is in one sense good thing. And we have many examples of people in the history who did many bad things, but always tried to excuse themselves. In Prabhupada's times, in 70s, Prabhupada mentions him quite a few times in his conversations. Former US President Richard Nixon, at that time there was some Watergate scandal that he was involved. They were taping the offices of Democratic Party, and that was discovered. But somehow this President Nixon, he always denied that he knew anything about it. Basically, he lied big time. But at the end, they wanted to remove him, to impeach him, so he had to resign. And he was the only US president in history to resign from that post. And it was exactly in time when Prabhupada was there, around 74. But the point is that till the end, he continued to defend his innocence, and he even said, I'm not a crook. Instead of, at least, admitting, I'm sorry, I apologize. No, I'm not, I'm innocent. And there are many, many, many others. Again, I'll take you a little bit back more in the history. During the Second World War, after the Second World War, there was one Adolf, not Hitler, but Eichmann. He organized concentration camps in Germany in Second World War. He was basically the main man organizing all these terrible Holocaust camps. And when they were suing him, when they had a trial in Jerusalem, he claimed that he just followed the orders, and it was not his fault that millions died in his concentration camp. Till the very end, he refused to accept the responsibility. No, others ordered, and I had to kill them. And if we go even more back to history, to some 1,000 years ago, there was one pope called Urban II. Just recently we got a new pope, but this was a pope much before, 1,000 years ago. He was the one who ordered the first crusade war. All these crusade wars, there are a few of them, and they were wars to reclaim Jerusalem and Jesus' tomb from the hands of infidels, of Muslims, or whoever was ruling there. But during these crusade wars, these crusaders, they were very, very savage-like. They had a very savage-like behavior, and they killed many, many civilians. Massacred thousands and tens of thousands of innocent children and women that happened to be on the way of their expedition. And this Pope, he never admitted that this war was not the right thing to do. And even Catholic Church, for hundreds of years ago, they denied the responsibility. They only much later, they accepted this was not the right thing to do. So refusal to accept responsibility on the individual level and then also on the organizational level. And then again, back to Prabhupada's times, again there was one so-called church leader. It was called People Temple's Cult, Jim Jones, who managed to get 1,000 people joining his farm community in South America, in Guyana. And there was a huge abuse and manipulation happening there. But still, no, they denied that everything is right here. When the U.S. law officials came there to inspect them in order to cover up, they killed them. They killed them, and at the end, when it was sure that it will be, become publicized, he somehow convinced these 1,000 people residing there to commit suicide together. So they all took poison. 900 people, including 200-300 children and women, they took poison and they died. And it was the huge, the largest massacre ever happened in the civil history. They took cyanide and died because of this one man, so-called religious leader. So this was the extreme example of refusal to accept responsibility. And of course, in India, we had many so-called big gurus who was sometimes discovered they were not so big. Like in South India, there was some Nityananda, and he was caught on camera with some actress, and then he fled the country. But till the very last, he denied, and still he was posing himself as an avatar or something. So this is some of the examples. Of course, in ISKCON we also had some problems. The very first sannyasi ended up in jail, and he also denied. But it's interesting that even after that he was released from prison, he still had some followers, of course, outside of ISKCON. He still had some followers, some people who faithfully follow him till the last moment, who completely denied. And it's not characteristic only for this case. For many cases, you have people who are blindly following till the very end, although it's obvious that this person is completely wrong in all respects. So some people describe this phenomena as cognitive dissonance. You just, if you admit that your worshipable leader is wrong, then you also admit that you made a mistake, and that's big, for your false ego. You cannot accept it, so you want to maintain the status of that leader till the very end. Anyway, this was some of the history. So I want to now give some examples of devotee thinking, Vaikuntha thinking. Here in this very chapter and in the previous chapter we had Jai and Vijay. They immediately, accepted that they committed mistake. They immediately didn't protest. They immediately took responsibility, accepted the curse. Only they begged that they don't forget Krishna. This was their only prayer. And then we had example of Maharaj Parikshit. If you remember, he also committed one small mistake. He was very hungry and thirsty on a hunting expedition, so he happened to stop by the hermitage of the sage, and he saw him meditating. He asked him for water. The sage didn't respond because he was deep in samadhi. But Maharaj Parikshit thought maybe he's pretending, so he got a little upset and angry, and he put some dead skin of the snake around his neck. And as the result of this, he was cursed by the son of that sage. And when he was informed a little later that he was cursed to die, what was Maharaj Parikshit's reaction? What was his thinking? I'll just quote a few shlokas from Bhagavatam. He said, "Due to my neglecting the junctures of the Supreme Lord, I must certainly expect some difficulty to overcome me in the near future." This is before he was informed. And then when he was informed, he said, "I'm uncivilized and sinful due to my neglect of Brahmanical culture, God consciousness, and cow protection. Therefore, I wish that my kingdom strength and riches be burned to fire." And when he received the news, he accepted it as good news. And because that was the cause of his renunciation and going back to Godhead. There's another example in the 9th canto, one of the sons of Shadadev Manu. His name was Prishadra. He was a Kshatriya, and following the order of his spiritual master, he was engaged protecting the cows. So whole night he would stand with a sword in his hands to give cows protection. So one night there was a big storm and raining, and it happened that tiger entered the cow shed and seized the cow. And all cows, they got up in fear, and they were scattered there, and they're making sounds. And Prishada, hearing the screaming, he entered there with a sword, and because it was completely dark, he cut the cow's head by mistake, and also injured the tiger's ear who escaped. And then in the morning, when Prashada came there and saw that he killed the cow by mistake, he was very, very sorry, but what could he do? But his family priest, Vasishta, he cursed him. He said, "Because you killed a cow, in your next life you will not be able to become a kshatriya. You'll become a low-born shudra. So this was actually very wrong on the part of Vasishta, to curse somebody who accidentally committed mistake. But how did Prishrada react? Because it was his spiritual master, he accepted the curse with folded hands, like Maharaj Parikshit. And then, completely controlling his senses, he took a vow of brahmacharya, and then he renounced everything, became completely peaceful in the mind, and with being pleased with whatever was available by the grace of the Lord to maintain his body, he completely engaged himself in pure and alloyed devotional service. And then he wandered around the earth, and there was some fire. He entered that fire, and he went back to Godhead. So he was not born as a Shudra, and curse didn't work on him. So this was the reaction of the devotee, accept with all humility. So this is quite different from a non-devotee attitude of trying to avoid responsibility and punishment. And what is behind this attitude the devotees have? It's a humility. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he's saying some shlokas that give us insight of a real Vaishnava thinking. He says, Jagai madai hoite, muni se papishta, purishera kita hoite, muni se lagishta. I'm more sinful than Jaga and Madai, and lower than the worms in the stool. Mora nama shune jai, thara punyakshoy, mora nama loya jai, thara papa hoy. Anyone who hears my name loses the result of his pious activities. Anyone who utters my name becomes sinful. It's not that he's just pretending and, just for sake of a show, he's saying this. No, he generally feels like this. And because he feels like this, he also prays for mercy. And he says, who in this world but Nityananda could show his mercy to such an abominable person as me? So because when you feel very low and wretched, then you have great urge to ask for the mercy. And then Krishna is more inclined to give mercy because you are really earnestly asking for it. All acharyas, they exhibited this quality, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in many of his songs, he has the Dainya part in Gitavali Sharanagati, where he is expressing, regret and humility and lamentation for the fallen position. For example, in Gopinath, he says, Gopinath, amito kamira dhasa, vishaya vasana jagiche hridoye hadiche karamapasha. O Gopinath, indeed, I am a servant of lust. Worldly desires awaken in my heart, and thus the noose of fruitive work is beginning to tighten. O Gopinath, when I wake up and abandon a fear, this enemy of lust, and when will you manifest yourself in my heart? So always there is a hope. Although I am so fallen, but because the Lord is so merciful, there is a hope for me. So it's a humility that is behind the devotee's way of thinking and attitude. And what is the behind of the materialist way of thinking, which tries to avoid responsibility and make excuses? It's pride. It's, damba. I'm a great. And that's why it's not my fault. So Krishnadas Kaviraj, in continuation of this verse that I read, he says, Sadhanama loiba, in different part, in Adi Lila in 17th chapter, he says, Sadhanama loiba jata lobete santosh, eta achar kore bhakti dharma bosh. One should strictly follow the principles of always chanting the holy name, and one should be satisfied with whatever he gets easily. Such devotional behavior solidly maintain one's devotional service. So this is the behavior of Vaishnava. Always chant the holy name and satisfied with whatever he gets easily. And this is what is nourishing devotional service. And then the famous shloka that we all know, Trinapi sunichina taror ivasahisnuna ahamanina manadena kirtaniya sadahare. So one who thinks himself lower than the grass, who is more tolerant than a tree, who does not expect personal honor, it is always prepared to give all respects to others, can very easily always chant the holy name of the Lord. So in order to chant constantly, we need this utmost humility and tolerance. So question is, if we don't have it, then that means we cannot chant always. So what to do? Forget, stop chanting? No, we continue to chant. Actually, Krishnadas Kaviraj and Srila Prabhupada give us clue. Krishnadas Kaviraj says, Urdhva bhahu kori kahon shuna sarvalok nama sutre ghanti parakante eislok. Raising my hands, I declare, everyone please hear me. String this verse on a thread of the holy name, Nama Sutre Ghanti, and wear it on your neck for continuous remembrance. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, in the beginning one may commit many offenses, which are called Nama Bas and Nama Parad. In this stage, there is no possibility of achieving perfect love of Krishna by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So if we chant with Nama Bas or even verse Nama Parad, no prema can come. Therefore, one must chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra according to the principles of the above verse. Trinat api sunichena taror ivasahishnuna. And now Prabhupada interestingly explains the mechanics of chanting. Although the verse speaks about the attitude, he explains the mechanic of chanting. One should note in this connection that chanting involves the activities of the upper and lower lips as well as the tongue. All three must be engaged in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. The words Hare Krishna should be very distinctly pronounced and heard. Sometimes one mechanically produces a hissing sound instead of chanting with the proper pronunciation with the help of the lips and tongue. Chanting is very simple, but one must practice it seriously. Therefore, the author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, advises everyone to keep this verse always strung about his neck. So the verse is about humility and tolerance. And then Srila Prabhupada speaks about the proper pronunciation of chanting. You may wonder why. Let's go a little further and we'll discover that. So Prabhu Agyai Kora Eish Loka Acharan Avashya Paibe Taibe Sri Krishna Charan. One must strictly follow the principles given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this verse. If one simply follows in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya and the Goswamis, certainly he will achieve the ultimate goal of life, the lotus feet of Krishna. So humility and chanting are inseparably connected. You cannot chant always or without offense if you are not humble, and you cannot become humble by not chanting always or not chanting without offense. So this looks like a catch-22, but it's not. So in purport, Srila Prabhupada here explains proper pronunciation, and he says chanting is very simple, but one must practice it seriously. So if we chant as Srila Prabhupada is teaching us, and try our best to avoid offenses, gradually the holy name will clean our heart from the disease of pride and make us more and more humble until we become more humble than a blade of grass, when all the last trace of pride will be destroyed. And Krishnadas Kaviraj, he also hints that in the next sloka. He says, Taru sama sahisnuta vaishnava koribe Bharsana thadane khake kichu na bolibe. A devotee engaged in chanting the holy name of the Lord should practice forbearance like that of a tree. Even if rebuked or chastised, he should not say anything to others to retaliate. Katileha tharu jena kichu na bodaya Shukaya morethabu jala na maghaya. For even if one cuts a tree, it never protests, and even if it's drying up and dying, it does not ask anyone for water. And Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, this practice of forbearance, Taroiva Sahishnuna, is very difficult, but when one actually engages in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, the quality of forbearance automatically develops. A person advanced in spiritual consciousness through the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra need not practice to develop it separately, for a devotee develops all good qualities simply by chanting Hare Krishna mantra regularly. So if I notice I'm not a humble, and now I want to be humble, I cannot artificially become humble. I can pretend, and I can avoid some actions that are not humble, but still I'm proud. So I cannot cleanse my heart just by visual thinking. I have to chant Maha Mantra, and then the Lord and the holy name will cleanse the heart. There is that shloka in the Bhagavatam, Yasyati Bhaktir Bhagavata Kinchana. In the body of one who is engaged in alloyed devotional service without material motivation, Sarvari Gunais Tatra Samaste Suraha. All good qualities of demigods appear. Harava Bhaktasya Kuto Mahadguna. And if one is a non-devotee, there cannot really be any good qualities. Why? Because Manoratenasati Dhavato Bahi, because he's driven by his mind, the chariot of the mind, and he is running around in the service of Maya. So just by sincerely and seriously practicing devotional service, we will develop all the qualities of Vaishnava, of which humility and forbearance are the most important. So thus, learning how to think as Vaikuntha Vasi, it's not just a mental exercise, it's not just a changing of patterns of thinking and patterns of reactions. It's deeper than that. It's a change of the heart. And that change of the heart is followed by the change of the way of thinking, feeling, and willing. Of course, we want to be careful while we are cleansing the heart that we don't do any actions that are opposed to the humility, these principles of humility and tolerance, because they will strengthen the pride, the anartha of pride. So, for example, if something is annoying me, I can either try to patiently tolerate, or I can make a sin, and this would lower my level of intolerance. But if I resist and tolerate, I move a little bit higher. But even with this practice, it will not cleanse really the heart. It's not a psychological trick or technique. We need the Lord to come in and to cleanse the heart. That's why in the Bhagavatam we know Srimatan Swakata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Hridanta Stohya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suharit Satam. By engaging in this Swakata Krishna, hearing and chanting, which is the most pious Punya Shavana Kirtana, the Lord, He enters the heart and He's cleansing it. So we also want to hear about the Lord and His loving dealings with His devotees, and then our heart will be gradually changed. In this verse we have mentioned how the Prabhupada is mentioning how the loving exchanges between the Lord of devotees are so affectionate. So we can remember how Lord and His devotees, how the Lord served His devotees, for example, how He served Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Arjuna himself, when he returned from Dwaraka after Krishna left, and he's giving a report to Mother Yudhishthira, he is remembering, and then he's saying, only by His mercy I was able, to conquer all the princes in the palace of King Drupada during the Draupadi Swayamvara. Only because he was near me, I was able to defeat the king of heaven, Indra, and all the demigods. Only because of him, your younger brother Brahma, he was able to kill Jarasandha, who was more powerful than thousands of elephants. It was only because of him that all the wives of the warriors of the Kurukshetra battlefield, they had their hair loosened because, who was it, Shakuni touched the Draupadi's hair. Only because of him we were saved from the wrath of Durvasa Muni, who wanted to curse us. Only because of him I was able to, astonish the Lord Shiva in the battle and get all the divine astras. It was him only who withdrew the lifespan of everybody on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. They were such great warriors that I had no chance actually of conquering them. Bhishma, Karna, Drona, Shalya. But because he was next to me, I was able to do these things. So Arjuna, he's recognizing and he's touched, by the Lord's mercy towards him. He says, Narman Yudhira Ruchira Smita Shobitani He Partha, He Arjuna Sakhe Kuru Nandhaneti Sanjal Pithani Naradeva Hridis Prishani Smartur Luthanti Hridayama Mamadavasya. So he's saying to Maharaj Yudhishthira, O king, his joking and frank talks were pleasing and beautifully decorated with smiles. His addresses unto me as son of Partha, O friend, O son of Kuru dynasty, and all such heartiness are now remembered by me, and thus I'm overwhelmed. So Arjuna remembers how they used to live together, him and Krishna, how they used to sleep, sit, loiter, wander around together. And sometimes Krishna would advertise himself for acts of chivalry, and Arjuna, he would reproach him saying, my friend, you are very truthful. But even in those hours when his value was minimized, he being the Supreme Soul used to tolerate all these utterings of mine, excusing me exactly as a true friend excuses his true friend, or a father excuses his son. And then now Krishna is gone and Arjuna is lamenting, but he's finding solace in remembering what? Now I'm attracted to those instructions imparted to me by the personality of Godhead, Govinda, because they are impregnated with instructions for relieving the burning heart of in all circumstances of time and place. So he is remembering Bhagavad Gita shlokas, and he feels Krishna's presence. So this is also a way for us to remember Krishna and his devotees and develop Vaikuntha way of thinking and conquer the pride. So I'll stop here if you have any comments or questions. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you for the lecture. God is all-powerful, so His will, whatever His will is, it will happen, or it can happen. So if I succeed in my life, if I show humility, and if I succeed in Krishna consciousness, it's thanks to the Lord's mercy. But if I don't succeed, isn't it? Yeah, it's my fault, but isn't it because God didn't want to show His mercy to me? And because if He wanted to, I would have
Succeeded. Thank you. Good question. So you could conclude, oh, the Lord was not merciful enough towards me. That's why I didn't make it in this life. So there is a next life now for me. I have to start again, everything. The thing, we don't start from the beginning. We start where we stopped in the previous life, and the next life we'll start where we stop now. But actually it's not His fault that He didn't bestow enough mercy. He maybe didn't bestow, but because we didn't want that mercy strong enough to be bestowed on us. Our desire, our eagerness for the mercy was not strong enough, and consequently our endeavors to practice sadhana also was not strong enough. But even if our endeavors were strong enough, still by our own strength we cannot make it. We need His mercy. But guaranteed He will give His mercy if He sees that we are very, very eager and we are really committed and we have a strong desire. Then naturally His mercy flows. So in that way we cannot blame Him. It's our lack of enthusiasm, our lack of desire. If we have desire strong enough, then we will do everything to get the mercy. And we will get the mercy. There is no question. The Lord He will not have to give, but He will be inclined to give. He will give it to help us whatever that little is left. Like, what is it? Some devotees ask Prabhupada, how much Krishna conscious we have to become in this life? If we don't become 100%, can we make it? Prabhupada said, okay, I don't remember exactly, but something 75%. He said, and the rest will be the mercy. But you have to make it on your own, 75% or whatever, 50%, and then the rest will be the mercy of the Lord. But you have to show that you want the mercy. And this is your endeavor, your desire, your prayers. You need to beg. You need to beg for mercy, really. And then when the Lord sees that somebody is really knocking on the door, not only today, but tomorrow, day after day, you are begging Him and asking for mercy, then at the end He will say, okay, have it. But if I'm half-hearted, oh Krishna, please be merciful, and then the next moment, okay, I go do this, do that, and my mind is occupied with so many things. I'm not really focused on getting the mercy. Then I'm not very, very serious. Krishna thinks He is just giving a lip service. You're saying you want mercy, but do you really in your heart have such a strong urge, some strong desire for mercy? Do you have it? So it always boils down back to us. The ball is in our court. Otherwise, God is impartial. He wants to give mercy to everybody. But yatamam prapadyante, as much as we surrender, then He reciprocates. So it's our lack of surrender, our lack of desire, of eagerness, is the cause why we may have not succeed. So somehow or other we have to develop desire strong enough, and that's possible in the association of those who have it. So we need good association of those who are really determined to get the mercy in this lifetime. It is difficult, but it's possible. Prabhupada said it's possible in one lifetime if we really want it. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, wonderful session. I have a question. The question is is the Lord's mercy is limited to become a pure devotee of the Lord? Or
sorry, can you repeat? Is the Lord's mercy?
Is the mercy of the Lord towards this devotee, maybe whoever it is, sadhaka, kanishta, madhyam, uttamadhikari, is it limited to become a pure devotee of the Lord? Or the mercy also can extend as becoming Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha or the other three avatars? Because should we think that it was not the mercy on Jaya Vijaya that they could become the demons? So I come back to the question. Can we define what's really mercy of the Lord towards a devotee?
What is His real mercy? Well, the external form of the mercy sometimes might not look like a mercy. There is a shloka in Bhagavatam where Krishna says, if I really want to bestow mercy upon my devotee, I take everything from him. I take away. And then when he is penniless, all the relatives leave him and he suffers one misery after another. So Lord Himself, He is saying, this is my real mercy. Those who don't have it, those who get the money and the riches, this is not the real mercy. So the real mercy is whatever is bringing us closer to Krishna, whatever is making us surrender to Him, whatever is bringing us closer to the pure love of God. This is the real mercy, although from outside it might look different. And the Lord was certainly merciful to Jaya and Vijay because they're helping Him in His pastimes. He wanted to fight and nobody in material world is equal to Him. How can He fight? So they're fulfilling His desire by fighting us as demons against him. So it's a mercy for them also. Sometimes, they might be bored at the gates of Vaikuntha, so also they need some sports, but they are not forgetting the Lord all the time. So this is the mercy, never to forget Krishna. In whatever condition you are, if you don't forget Krishna, this is, you can be sure that Lord is merciful to you. But regardless of your external circumstances, if you forget Krishna, then you don't have a mercy. You might have a lot of money, opulence, this, that, but if you forget Krishna, you lost the mercy. Okay. If there is nothing else, I'll stop here. Thank you all very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.